Doing well. I believe in the power of prayer. I know you do too. So keep praying. Appreciate it. We're in Isaiah chapter 23. We just had 2 verses left in this chapter, and then we'll get into the next section. Before we move any further, we've talked a little bit about this, though I don't believe I've used the word yet. Does anybody here know what the word, this is not in the text of the Bible, do you know what the word eschatology means? Not study of the word. Tongues, not quite. Any other guesses or shots at it? It comes from 2 words meaning, ology, meaning the study of, basically. But then eschaton is a Greek word. It does appear in the Greek New Testament, and it means end times. So it's the study of end times. If you hear somebody talk about the word eschatology, they're talking about the study of end times. So the Jews had something like this. And whether we've realized it or not, that's what we've been talking about in chapters 13 through 23. Constantly, they talk about where they are presently. This is their present state. It looks something like exile. It looks like destruction. So if a prophet's going to come along and teach them or preach to them about a time coming after the exile, what he's doing is he's speaking about the future, of course, but he's speaking of an ideal time. He's speaking of their end of time, the Jewish eschatology. It does not necessarily need to be literal or historical, and I've made arguments for that time and time and time again. In Isaiah 23, we run into a remark that is so highly figurative or highly symbolic that it stands out quite obviously. We were talking about Tyre, as it says in 23:1. It's the burden or the judgment of the city of Tyre, perhaps even the whole land there of Phoenicia. But it says in 23:17, it will come to pass when Tyre is judged, that's the context, after the end of 70 years, that the Lord will visit Tyre. Now the word visit, in your English translation, can go one of 2 ways. It can be either a good thing, as in Luke chapter 1, where Christ comes and visits the nation of Israel, and it's a good thing. He's the Redeemer. Or it can be a bad thing. In this context, visit here is after the exile pictured period. And so, figuratively speaking, it's in an ideal time. What's God do with Tyre after He's judged Tyre? When the Jews are now in ideal future time, when they're lifted up and exalted, what's going to happen? Look at how figurative this is. In 23:17, the Lord's going to come to Tyre, and she shall turn to her hire, and shall commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world upon the face of the earth. Tyre is pictured quite like the harlot in Revelation 17, Revelation 18. She is pictured as a harlot, as a prostitute, who is committing fornication for merchandise, for money. And look at what happens in 23:18. And her merchandise and her hire shall be holiness to the Lord. She's going to take the money that she has received from harlotry, the nation, the city of Tyre, is going to take that money in the vision and give it to God. And it says in 23:18, it shall not be treasured nor laid up, for her merchandise shall be for them that dwell before the Lord, to eat sufficiently and for durable clothing. Is God really suggesting that Tyre is going to prostitution and bring the payment up to Jerusalem, up to Zion? This is obviously a figurative reference. God is picturing an idealistic situation that is never historically or literally fulfilled. But what it does illustrate is this: Jerusalem is going to be so successful that even the most heathen nations or cities will be coming to worship God at Jerusalem, and they'll be bringing all of their merchandise and treasure up to Jerusalem. And this is exactly how it was in Solomon's day. In 1 Kings 4:34, it shows that all of the kings of the earth you wouldn't think the little nation, the Jews, would be the ones that everybody's coming together at. But that's what happened during the reign of Solomon. Why? Because at that point the nation was righteous. The nation was righteous. And it was because of that that everybody else looked at Jerusalem and they said, we want to be part of Israel's blessings. We want to partake. God is picturing after the exile in an idealistic fashion. He is saying after you come out of Babylon, after you've gone through this captivity, that's how Jerusalem's going to be pictured. It does not need to be literally fulfilled. Somebody get Deuteronomy 23. It's verse 18, I think. Deuteronomy 23, 18. And let me show you that this could not literally be the case if Torah, the Pentateuch, is still valid, still standing. Whoever's got it, read 23, Deuteronomy 23, verses 17 and 18.
There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog into the house of the Lord thy God, or any vow, for even both these are an abomination unto the Lord.
That. Okay. If the Pentateuch is still binding, this cannot be literally true. God cannot approve it. This is obviously a figurative remark. I would contend that 13 through 23, though it has, the literal truth is this: Babylon's going to be judged, Assyria is going to be judged, Phoenicia is going to be judged, Israel is going to be judged. That's the literal truth in all of it. But all of the language that describes that or pictures that is highly visionary or highly symbolic. So what we have once again, here's the Mediterranean, and Nebuchadnezzar basically leveled the city after a 13-year siege. They moved out into their island off the coast. So Tyre is even bringing all of their goods. Back in Isaiah 19, we read that Egypt is going to have a highway that runs to Jerusalem, and they're going to bring goods. And then we also read about Assyria. We read about Babylon. And all of these guys are bringing their goods. None of this is literal. But if you're going to preach to a Jew who's living in captivity, how are you going to preach about hope and deliverance to them? The tables will be turned. That's what the prophets have been saying. And so they are. The tables are turned. And perhaps in their most ultimate way, the tables are turned when Christ comes on the scene and extends the best kind of salvation that's ever been possible and ever been known to man. Okay, with that being said, we're going to move into 24 through 27. Any questions or comments before we move into that? Yes, Mary.
King James, instead of visit, said deal with?
Okay.
I just was wondering if any of the other translations of what the word visit, what they were getting at.
Yeah.
The phrase deal with.
I'm not sure what the word would be in the Hebrew text, in the Masoretic text.
I'd have to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether someone else used that.
The word in the Greek, so this would be even from your Greek Old Testament, would be epsato. And this is the general term that demonstrates that God is going to visit the nation or deal with a nation, whether sometimes good or sometimes bad. Same word basically in every context. Yeah, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. Anything else before we get into 24? Yes?
Maybe immaterial, but I was looking up some references in Ezekiel about power.
Yeah.
Difference in the language. I don't understand why in Isaiah P-Y-R-E, Tyre. And then Ezekiel is Tyrus.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the difference?
There's not one.
The language is all the same. How come they translate different in the two books?
Same reason there was Jehoiakim, but he also went by the name Coniah. Same reason you've got, sometimes in the same book of Jeremiah, it's Nebuchadnezzar, but in another place, in Jeremiah's text, it's Nebuchadrezzar. Why? Sometimes we have different spellings. Yeah, sometimes. my mom's name is Stacy, spelled without an E. I've seen it spelled with an E several times by Muslim. Well, there could be another reason. Maybe the spelling up towards this area of things was that they spelled it Tyrus, whereas they maybe just spelled it as Tyre down here.
And the one that's translated could be entirely different.
Could be, yes, definitely.
Me and Paul even recorded that and said, I say, not the Lord, or unless the Lord says. So, yeah, it put that personal touch.
Yes, definitely.
The Lord didn't violate God's will.
That's right.
The Lord did not violate the Holy Spirit.
It's all the
Yeah.
same story, it's just different.
Yeah, definitely. Norman, you had a point?
Yeah, my name's Green. I don't spell T, but a lot of people do. It's spelled, there's no, I mean, now there's rules, but most people don't know them anyway. But back then, they just, they want to sound like, and that's
Yeah.
like that now. But it's supposed to be the right and wrong way, but you can spell.
Yeah.
I mean, there was ways.
As a final point, think about those British spellings. You know, the O-U-R, color, savior. But in our English, we dropped some of those characters out. That's it. Okay. If nothing else, we'll get into 24 through 27. Okay, here's our text. 24 through 27 forms another unit. Now, if you've really been paying close attention, we have worked with a few different units or sections up to this point. 1 through 5 dealt with a summary of the entire prophecy of Isaiah. Chapter 6 dealt with his calling. When Isaiah saw a vision of the Lord, and the Lord said, hey, you're going to go prophesy for me. The next unit that we saw was chapter 7 to 12. This dealt with the Syro war. And then we saw this lengthy section of 13 through 23, which was a series of woes or burdens upon the nation. And now we enter into this section, 24 through 27, and it is what most generally call the little apocalypse. Anybody else know a text in the Bible that bears the book of Revelation? Okay, the reason for the word apocalypse means that which is revealed. So sometimes we hear about apocalypse and we think the stuff. And that's not necessarily what they would have thought of. So don't make that conclusion. This is a Greek term and literally just means something that is uncovered or revealed, implying that it had once been covered or hidden. What we're finding in Isaiah 24 through 27 is literature that is quite similar to the book of Revelation. Does this necessarily mean that it's end of the world material? Absolutely not. In fact, I would contend that Revelation is not end of the world material. So we've got to be very cautious as we approach some of these remarks. In Isaiah 24, let me go ahead and give us really a snapshot of what's going on. You've got two different things, and it's the same kind of thing we've seen in 13 through 23. In 13 through 23, we saw the woes or the burdens upon the nations. Did God, in that section, did God pull out every nation that would ever oppress the Jews? No, no. See, you've got the city of Jerusalem. He called out Egypt. He called out, you get the idea. He called them all out. But what if a nation were to stand up? Let's say the Arabs down here to the south. He doesn't deal with them really. What if they were to say, he missed us? Or what about the Greeks? He never calls out the Greeks. They hadn't necessarily as a nation at this time. What if they were saying, we lucked up, there's no oracle against us? 24 through 27 deals with the entire scope of it. Basically it says, in case God missed one, it's everybody who opposes Jerusalem. So he doesn't do any kind of disservice by leaving out some of them. 24 through 27 is a universal picture in the Old frame. I'm going to state that one more time. Let that, whatever we're dealing with is time. As we look at some of these remarks we're familiar with, but we know these remarks from New Testament passages. And then we're going to say, oh, I didn't realize that was in Isaiah, or maybe you did, I don't know. But we're going to see some of this literature that's going to be quite similar to New Testament texts, and we're going to realize that the New Testament setting, a new scenario, a new atmosphere. Okay, in 24 then, he says, behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty and makes it waste. When he says earth, he's going to say it over and over again. Now, maybe you're using a version that's a little more consistent. King James, whatever reason, goes back and forth calling it the earth. He's going to render the phrase the land. Then he's going to call it the land. Word in the Hebrew. So when you see 24:1, the Lord makes the earth empty. And then you see in 24:3, the land shall be utterly empty. Same phrase, same words in the Masoretic text. 24 verse 4, the earth mourneth. 24 verse 5, the earth also is defiled. 24:13, the land. 24:11, the land. And it's all through the section. It's the same. Whatever we make out of the earth or the land in one place, it is consistent in every single page of it. So when the Lord says that there's going to be a desolation, what is it talking about? We'll come back. I want to have us read a couple of different passages here, and we're going to create a comparative on the board. Whoever has 24:13, go ahead and read that for us. 24:13. I'm going to write some of this on the board while we read. Okay, in this case, this is somewhat tough to get out of the King James rendering. But what is being exalted? We're going to see a picture of things that are being exalted, or lifted up, or vindicated, we might even say. In 24:13, we have a reference to the land as being exalted. 24:13. Okay, somebody read 26 for us. 6 verses 1 and 2. Here they are singing a song because the land has been exalted or vindicated. And then, of course, there's one more reference. I'll just read this. This is 27:13. All of this is in the same unit of text. 27:13, it shall come to pass that day, they're going to blow a great trumpet, and it says, and they shall come which were ready to perish the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and watch what happens to the land of Jerusalem. They will worship the Lord in the holy mount at Jerusalem. So once more we have another reference, 27 and verse 13, demonstrating that the land of Jerusalem, the land of Zion, is going to be exalted. Here's another thing that's going to be exalted. Look at 24:23. We won't read, if we've read one of these passages, we won't read them again. 24:23. Whoever has that, go ahead.
None will be disgraced, and the son of shame, for the Lord of hosts will reign on Mount Zion, and in Jerusalem, and before his elders, gloriously.
There you have Zion. Not just a reference to the land in a broad sense, but now you have Zion being uplifted or exalted. Here's another thing. In 25:6, I'll just read some of these because this one's a lengthy section. It says, in this mountain, 25:6, shall the Lord of hosts make unto all people. And in verse 7, He will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering. He's going to remove the veil that's been overshrouding the nation. And then in 25 verse 10, in this mountain shall the hand of the Lord rest. So we see then in 25, the mountain, which is Zion, is Jerusalem. 25, 6 through 10 has several remarks about the mountain being up. And then we see also in 25:8, the end, 25:8b, the rebuke of His people shall He take away from off all the earth. In this case, we've got God's people being exalted. Now, I know some of this is a little bit tedious. It's going to help us understand the gist of the text. And then we also have the exiles. Look at 26:19. This is a cryptic remark. We would check out the captives or the exiles. Just call them captives. Somebody read. Okay. And then for sake of time, I'm not going to read this last one, but we're going to get to it, and we're going to read this parable about the vineyard, which is going to push us back to thinking about Isaiah chapter 5. God once destroyed, now being up. Okay. What we've created is just one side of the chart. This is everything that God speaks in this section about uplifting, or exalting, vindicating. On the other side of it, God has listed something that's going to be destroyed. Here's what's going to be humbled in this section. And so we're going to look at some of those things as well. Look at 24:1. The Lord makes the earth empty. 24, verse 3. The land will be utterly emptied. Verse 4. The earth mourneth. Verse 5. The earth also is defiled. What we see on one hand is the land being exalted, but on the other hand we see the land being humbled. 24:1 through 5. Here's another something that's going to be humbled or torn down, and that is the haughty people. Look at 24 and verse 4. Somebody read 24 verse 4. The haughty people. God's going to humble those that are haughty. And then look, somebody read 24:21 for us.
It shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the host of the high, ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth.
Oh, God's going to punish those that are high-minded, those that are proud, arrogant. Okay, another thing we see is that the covenant... Somebody look at 24 verse 5. Look at who it's described as being humbled. In 24 and verse 5.
Also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Okay, you've got your covenant. There are too many passages, and I'm going to point out when we get there, because we're going to spend some time discussing what the city is. But there is a city consistently pictured in 24, 10 through 12. We are not going to read all of these. There's one pictured in 25, verse 12. Several references that is going to be leveled, flattened, destroyed. Then you've also got the land of Moab, which is an interesting reference in 25 and verse 12. You have a reference to Assyria being humbled or flattened in 27:13. You've also got a reference to the oppressive lords. So we're just going to call them the oppressors in 26, 13, and 14. And then you've got a reference to the Leviathan, 27, 1. And
And the last thing that I could find in the text, and that sort of thing in 27 and verse 9. Okay, why is this taking place? Why do we have this kind of division? Somebody tell us, at this time, was the city of Jerusalem, the people of Israel, were they righteous or wicked? Very wicked. Very wicked. If one would only read all of the things they've been committing. Remember, our snapshot in chapters 1 through 5 shows they were overrun with alcohol, they were robbing from the poor, the individuals who were the elites in the society were going into the official documents and they'd fudge those documents up and they'd say, oh, no, that vineyard doesn't belong to you anymore. Actually, that belongs to one of the rich folk who already has about 10 of them. See, that's the kind of stuff that was going on. What God is going to demonstrate in this section is that His people need to be humbled. And so all of those things within their society, some of these are very visionary, some of them are a little more literal or historical. But He is demonstrating these as being collapsed or purified in order that righteousness might be exalted. So in the same way, we have that kind of principle of judgment. When the Lord comes at the end of time and judges the whole world universally, and all tongues will confess and every knee will bow, that's Romans 14, that's Philippians 2. What's God doing? He is coming to bat for the righteous, and He is destroying those that are wicked. He's delivering the righteous from the wicked. Well, that's the same kind of thing. And to illustrate that, one passage. Somebody get Isaiah 1 and verse 9. Whoever's got it. When you've got it, go ahead.
Unless the Lord of hosts had left us few survivors, He would be like Sodom, we would be like Gomorrah.
Okay. It is the remnant, the righteous remnant of Israel. All of those people who were in this dark time, but they were trying to do right. It's all of those people that will be exalted, while all of the oppressors and the wicked people will be cast down. Okay. Take a look at 24:1 then, and we'll begin working with the section verse by verse. In 24:1, Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scatters abroad the inhabitants thereof. What land is He talking about when He says the earth? Talking about the entire world as a land? Not really. Talking about all of the things that are coming out will be cast down, and even those that are within Jerusalem that are wicked. And then He says in 24:2, and it shall be, watch this, as with the people, so with the priest. Even the priests. If you were to expect anybody in this time to be righteous, wouldn't you expect your preacher to be righteous? They weren't. And there's another reference to that back in Hosea 4 and verse 9, where that exact same terminology is used. As is the priest, so are the people. The people were following after wicked leaders. That was the problem. Okay, 24:2 then. As with the servant, so with his master. The maid, her mistress. The buyer, as with the seller. The lender, so with the borrower. And as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. In other words, all of the people that are elite in society and all of the people that are low in society are going to act the same way. This is hyperbolic language. They're using emphasis. They're using figurative speech. 24:3 says, the land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled. The Lord hath spoken this word. The earth burneth and fades away. The world languisheth and fades away. The haughty people of the earth, not just within Jerusalem, even the haughty nations, the Gentile nations, everybody's going to be humbled against God, and they're going to languish. 24:5 says, the earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, they've broken the everlasting covenant. Go back. seems to me, I could be wrong on this, but it seems to me that that's a remark about death, murder. If the human beings have been killing each other, God's going to recompense that wickedness. And that's what Isaiah 24:5 says. Okay, in 24:6 then, watch this. This is a remark that we've got to work with. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. This cannot be the final judgment. The nation of Moab. What we're seeing is a national judgment back into the Old Testament. And then in 24:7, the new wine mourns, the fine language of all, the merry-hearted do sigh, the mirth of tabrets ceases, the noise of them that rejoice ceases, the joy of the harp ceases. Verse 9, they shall not drink wine with a song, strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. In other words, their part judgment at their door. They can't afford it. They've got an army. Then in 24:10-12, the city of confusion is broken, shut up, that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is dark. The mirth of the land is gone. In the city is left desolation. The gate is destruction. This raises the question of what city. There are a couple of suggestions. You've got a city being referenced constantly in this section. It's referenced again in 7. And so we could identify this as one of a few different cities. The first option we could do is say, this is probably we could say, is this really the Assyrian capital? This is, remember, the Assyrians are those who are oppressed in Jerusalem at this time. Sennacherib, Sargon, and some of the other are the ones in Jerusalem. Perhaps. We have a reference to Moab in 5 verse 12. They get the capital of Moab. Possible. Well, then we have a third option. Is it the city of Jerusalem? Hezekiah is the king. The people are living wickedly. Let me show you that. Take a look at 2 Kings 18. Whoever has 2 Kings 18. Read 13-16 for us. 2 Kings 18, 13 through 16.
And in the 14th year of King Azariah,
Sennacherib, yeah.
king of Syria, all
And 15.
Zechariah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of the Lord.
City of Jerusalem. Well, I've done wrong. Send out tribute. Maybe it's Jerusalem. Or this is what I presently think. I think that it is an idealized. You will not. He's not talking about a literal city. He is painting an imaginary. It's not just for us an image of a city that has walls and it has a gate, and we could put a title on it, the city of wickedness. So when this city falls in the vision, it's God's way of demonstrating He's going to judge all wickedness. Not just the wickedness in the city of the Assyrians. Oh, is a visionary thing. It pictures all of the wicked people, Gentile or Jewish. And it's God's way of demonstrating judgment upon all of them. I tend to think that's probably the way we should go. So take a look then at this 24 verse 10 again. The city of confusion. He doesn't give it a title. He doesn't give it a name. It's because it's an imaginary one. He's just picturing all of the wickedness of the world as embodied in this city. He says in the city, verse 12, is left desolation. And when wickedness is destroyed, if we're going to draw out a timeline, which I'm not sure we should do, but if we were to draw out a, and we'll put the Babylonian exile here. That's about 606 roughly to 536. That's an approximate thing. And then you've got Assyria's invasion here, about 722 through about 686. That I got. If you can read that, you're doing better than I am. But what you've got is Isaiah is prophesying sometime right here. And he is preaching about a time that's going to come sometime after the exile. In the vision, a lot of this, a lot of Isaiah put a time frame on it, which I don't think we necessarily should do, but I'm going to for the sake of understanding. I think that Isaiah is looking at right here. So it's not about after the exile. Some captives come to Babylon. Take a look then at 24 verse 13. When that time comes, when the wicked city in the vision is finally leveled, it says in 13, then it shall be in the midst of the land among the people, there shall be as the shaking of an olive tree, and as the gleaning grapes when the vintage is done. This is in the city. Peace is going to be had. People are going to be rejoicing again. Verse 14, they'll lift up their voice. They'll sing a song for the majesty of the Lord. They'll cry aloud from the sea. They'll say, oh, glorify the Lord in the fires. Probably better translated as the east. Maybe your translation words it that way. Praise the Lord in the east. Even the name of the Lord God of Israel in the isles of. Anybody know what sea that is referencing? Somebody had it. Mediterranean. Yeah, I had a couple of people saying that. The reference here is an idiom. When he says they'll praise him from the east, the King James has the word fire. He's talking about the east as the Tigris, Euphrates, that's where Assyria is. And he's saying all the way over here from the east, even to the sea, he's saying the entire world is going to be pictured as this praise. And then he says in 24:16, from the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Yea, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Fear, it, or dead, unliving. And the snare are upon thee, O inhabitant of the earth. Judgment is upon And it says in verse 18, "And it shall come to pass that he who flees from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and he that comes up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the trap," or the snare. And then it says, "For the windows from on high are open." Anybody remember where that kind of phrase is found? The windows from on high are opened. Yeah, there it is. What does the flood speak about? If you were a Jew and you heard the word flood, what would you think of? Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark. You'd think of Noah and all of the boat. Judgment. You'd think of judgment. Universal. This phrase to evoke a flood, about a judgment like of Noah. And he says in 24 and verse 8, "The windows from on high are open." God is judging the world, the wicked world, and the foundations of the earth do shake. In 19, he says, "The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly." Once again, he's picturing the entire oppressive world as being dissolved. Somebody grab 2 Peter 2, verse 5 for us. 2 Peter 2 and verse 5, whoever has it. Flood on what? The world of the ungodly. When the oppressor takes over, and so it could be Nebuchadnezzar, it could be Sennacherib, it could be Esarhaddon, it could be, put any king that was one of those oppressive kings there. When he rules his world. And so when God is going to picture him and leveling the oppressor, bringing them out of the exile, bringing them out of captivity, we're going to have not an oppressor, we're going to have a redeemer. And so God the world and collapse. That's why in Isaiah the world as being dissolved. You're going to see the world rolled back as a scroll. You're going to see it on fire, never to be quenched. All of this is figurative in Isaiah's text for the destruction of the world of the oppressor, bringing in a world through God's people, whether it be Zerubbabel or Ezra. Okay, we'll pick up on that next week. We'll talk about the world that's being destroyed. It's the oppressor's world in the Old Testament times.